Morning, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all good on your Sunday morning. On today's show, we'll be looking back at yesterday's hugely frustrating 1-0 home defeat against Norwich City. Joining me to do that, first up, top right, Tom Walling. A tough one yesterday, a frustrating one.
Yeah, it was. It was personally nice to be back. But yeah, frustrating game all around, really. And can I just say very quickly, loads of people have reached out to me on Twitter after I put a message up there yesterday. So thank you to everybody that has. I really appreciate it. But yeah, really frustrating. Referee's going to come in for a bit of a bashing, I think, this morning.
One of many people, I suspect. Also, bottom right is Paul Clements. How you doing, Paul?
Morning, Louis. Morning, team. Morning, fellow addicts. Yeah, so Tom's teed that up beautifully. We are not Nathan Jones. We do not have to hold back. That ref, Will Finney, is going to get a bashing this morning, and quite rightly so.
Imagine if we become the first football podcast to get a fine from the FA for talking about a referee. But that, I think that seems to be Paul's aims today. And also,
I'll pay for it, Louis.
Thank you. Bottom left, fresh off celebrating her 30th birthday again, is Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
I'm all right. Thank you, Louis. Yeah, feels good to be 30.
Lovely stuff. Good to have you back on the show. So on today's show, as I said, we'll be looking back at the defeat against Norwich. We're going to hear the goal shortly. We've got the reaction from Nathan Jones, who had some words for the referee. Also had some words for Philippe Clement as well. I don't know if he's a relation of yours, Paul. After yesterday's game, we're going to hear from Will Manion as well, the Addicts goalkeeper. Who I spoke to after the game yesterday. Want to hear from you guys? Get involved in the show. You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us @CharltonLive, or you can do what plenty have already done in the live chat on YouTube and add your comment. Sam was the first one in there, said a disappointing result. And yet again, we were too slow in starting the game. It's another game where we haven't scored in the first half. Which is something we've been doing quite consistently now for a long time. It's an incredible amount of time since we scored a home goal in the first half. You have to go back to that Southampton game, which was 12 games ago. We've not scored a first half goal anywhere in the last 10 games since the away game at Leicester. We've not scored more than one goal at home in 15 games, which I think was a Sheffield Wednesday game back in October. So yeah, problems with goal scoring, of course. Do what Sam's done and get involved in the show. Let us know your feelings about the performance yesterday. Was it a penalty on Lloyd Jones? Was Philippe Clement disrespectful to Nathan Jones after the game? Of course, we've got to focus on our performance as well. Where did we not do things that we should do? Where did we do things well? Let us know your thoughts. Get involved in the chat. Before we hear the goal, Tom, I don't know how you want to sum that one up. I mean, the one thing we should say is we shouldn't really be doing the show right now. What we should be doing currently is watching the rest of the added time for all the time wasting. You know, we should still be watching this game because the time wasting yesterday was outrageous. But, you know, we didn't score again at home. That's been a frustration at times recently. Or, you know, not scoring enough goals. Obviously, there's players who will come in for debate again, as they always do. But, yeah, I mean, sum up your feelings on yesterday's game.
Yeah, we sort of played the hits of the season, didn't we? In lots of ways. You got the TC, he's unfairly being abused, or he's the worst player we've ever seen in a Charlton shirt. You've got Nathan being too slow to make his decisions and bringing the wrong players on, or not. You've got the referee, which, you know, seems to be a weekly thing even at this level, and the step up doesn't seem to have made things any better. And the referee was really, really bad yesterday. But in terms of the performance itself, I just thought they were, certainly in that first half and that first 20, 25 minutes, they were quicker to everything. It was one of those games where the opposition looked like they've got a player more than we have. And a few people around me, I wasn't at the Southampton game, luckily, but a few people around me said it had hallmarks of that game, obviously without conceding quite so many goals. But on the other hand, you look at it and you go, it's a well-taken finish from the edge of the box. Could we have closed it down better? Yes. But, you know, they didn't get in and around the 6-yard box that often. They did have another chance or two, but Mannion did what Mannion needed to do. And then in the second half, I thought we were improved. I don't think we were good by any stretch, but we were definitely improved and we had chances, didn't we? Ramsey, although maybe would have been given as a foul, certainly the Premier League would have, for a push on the defender in front of him, but gets his header in. Obviously then, was it Clark or Carey that then skews it wide? Clark had a header. Carey had that big chance at the end. We could easily have come out of that with a point, maybe even more. Whether we'd have deserved it or not is a different thing. So, yeah, it felt like we were playing the hits of everything we've spoken about games this season. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue, and hopefully we've done enough to this point in the season for it not to matter. But, and obviously other results on the whole went our way yesterday, apart from West Brom. But yeah, a really frustrating one all round. I felt like when going into the game, I thought we might get something from it. I didn't think they were there to be feared, but that first 20-25 minutes really took the game away from us.
Yeah, well, massively informed, aren't they, Norwich? And they did look the better side on the day. I don't think there's any debate about that. But there was some fine margins yesterday. Only one goal. Let's have a listen back to it from Charlton TV. Brownie was alongside Terry.
Clark into the penalty area. Ball back to Matson, who's taken a touch, gets the shot away and scores. Drills it beyond Mannion and into the left-hand corner. And Norwich City have the lead.
They certainly do. And it was a very good spell of possession. That's got to be 15 passes or so. And we were in a very good defensive shape, but a tad passive in terms of applying pressure. You can get tight to somebody, but if you don't apply pressure, you might as well be 10 yards off. We've had two players go out to that ball to make a block, and somehow it sneaked through both and past Mannion into the back of the net. It's a wonderful strike, and it's a powerful strike. But again, I always say this when I see two players go, you've got to have the bravery on top of the attempt to go make the block, and I think we could have maybe stopped that one from fizzing past Mannion with a little bit more bravery on the block. Throwing yourself into it, going to ground, getting a bit closer. I don't think we've committed enough into that block to stop it.
There we go. That's the goal from yesterday. Matson for Norwich City is an early goal, wasn't it? After just 5 minutes, and then no more goals in the game. They held out for a 1-0 win. Obviously, I don't think held out is probably the right phrase, because they had chances to extend it in that first half, and Will Manion made some good saves in that second period, including that double save. But we had our moments more so in the second half. I think we had a couple of half moments in the first, but you felt a little bit in the second half we were growing into it, and there was a bit of a momentum shift, and they were more dangerous on the counter at that point rather than sort of controlling stuff as much as they had done in the first half, Paul. But we couldn't find a way. I mean, what do you want to touch on first? Maybe the concession of the early goal. We'll hear from Nathan. He describes it as like a theme goal, something that's happened a lot this season, where, and it did happen a lot last season as well, where people weren't closed down quickly enough on the edge of the box, and the feeling is that the midfielders have dropped too deep into our own penalty area. So therefore, by the time they are pushing out to make the block, they've got too much ground to cover, and they get a free shot on goal.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened, unfortunately, for Cov and Doc. They were just a second or two slow to react or come out and close that down. But I mean, I thought in the first half there were a few, they obviously tweaked it at half time a little bit in terms of play style, which helped us to improve second half. But they were cutting through our lines. The formation differences between the two sides enabled Norwich to cut through us. And you're always under huge pressure if your cam is on the back foot and really having to chase backwards, and you're left with one CDM and the box-to-box CM to do all that work. And I felt that wasn't the only chance with that. Will Manion saved really well, not that dissimilar a shot, but a bit higher, which was a good height for a keeper to save it. The other one was lower and obviously beat him. But I think it was a lot to do with the actual formation combined with their energy levels from the outset of the game, which were just higher for whatever reason. And I don't know what that was, because the intensity ordinarily that we play at in terms of chasing down, pressing high, didn't seem really to be there in the first half. It was much improved in the second, I thought. So I think it was those factors combined which led to their early goal. And at that point, I mean, I sat there thinking, blimey, that's a bright start. Let's hope we haven't got a kind of Southampton type game on our hands, knowing how well Norwich have been performing. Their form's been fantastic since Philippe Clement came in. So yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate. We should have done better. We have seen it before, but equally, we've come back from those situations before, and we just didn't have enough cutting edge yesterday to to get that equaliser. And then I'm sure I'm certainly going to spend a fair bit of today's game talking about the refereeing performance overall. And I know we can't, and I've seen it in the chat, you can't blame the officials. We do need to be sharp and creating chances, fair enough. But equally, when you're playing in the Championship against the sort of quality you are, like Norwich is, these games are fine margins. And the referees linesmen need to ensure that they're getting their decisions right, just as we will ask our players to get their decisions right in terms of positioning and passing and all the rest of it. And yesterday was just really, really poor from them, I think. So we'll come on to that later in more detail. But yeah, we have got to learn from that. And it's not the first time Nathan has acknowledged that this is, I think he called it a theme goal. And that is right. We saw it a lot in previous seasons, and it's crept in a couple of times at least, maybe 2-3 times this season, and we've got to do better.
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, if you think about Greg Doherty got dropped after, I think, the Chelsea game. It came up in the Chelsea game, and Nathan spoke about it quite a bit. And then, yeah, he's certainly frustrated. I think that the fact that it keeps happening, and it gives them basically a free shot on goal. I mean, by the time the two midfielders have closed it down, it's probably a little bit too late. Mannion sort of got a hand on the goal as well, Sue, which he was unable to keep out. It did take until the second half, I think, for a major reaction from us. And well, I mean, the major talking point it felt in terms of a decision that went against us was obviously that Lloyd Jones penalty shout. McConville, who has his sort of arm on Lloyd Jones, and the more you watch it, the more it seems like, I mean, he's got his arm. As Lloyd's gone round, he sort of pivoted him around, and then Lloyd's obviously made a deal with it going down to the ground. But the more I see it, the more I'm thinking, at first I thought, oh, it might be a bit soft because Lloyd made the most of it. But the more you see it, it's like, you can't grab someone like that in the penalty area. You can't grab someone like that anywhere. So frustrating one, because on another day, that'd be a penalty for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, what was it, like 19,000 Charlton fans all saw it, and the people that kind of matter in that kind of incident don't. Either that, or like his assistants need to be more vocal and say, actually, and I guess I sort of pulled it apart with my mate a little bit on later on, was that in those sorts of incidents, that's where VAR is like quality. Like, that would have been a Stonewall penalty. And I know people say, and Paul's already alluded to it, that you can't blame the referee for the fact we've lost. We need to create more. We need to be better. But those sorts of decisions do make such a difference, especially when you're playing against such a quality side as Norwich, that if we'd got that pen and scored that pen, the rest of that game could have had a very different outcome. So those decisions do make a difference. Yes, we should be better. We should be challenging more. We should be closing down quicker. I mean, their press was unbelievable yesterday. And the fact that we only lost 1-0, I think, again, is a positive to take from it, as odd as that sounds. But those decisions, and again, like Paul's already said, we'll come on to it probably later, the time wasting, those sorts of decisions are things that potentially get teams relegated, because that's the difference between getting a point and getting nothing. So I'm not gonna like defend the team for some of the performance, but when you're not getting the rub of the green when it comes to those sort of blatant decisions, then it makes it that much harder. You feel like you're playing against 12 men.
Obviously, look, we can't sit here and pretend that Norwich didn't have chances in the second half as well, Tom. As we said, Will Manion, who we're going to hear from later on in the show, made a really good double save. There was another deflected shot that he did well to save, and I think Magoma, who's a tidy little player for Norwich, had a chance at the far post from that cross that he might have done a little bit better with as well. But we had our big moments in the second half. You've already mentioned that the Ramsey header that came back off the crossbar from the corner. It was Clark who hit the rebound that was actually blocked, sort of close range. And then, I mean, we had those two chances for Carey late on. Clark also had that header from the Tyrese Campbell cross, which was a really decent cross towards the far post, and again not quite being able to make the most of his chance there. So, I mean, Nathan, as part of his interview, also references the fact that we simply have to become more clinical as a side. You know, I think we're other than Sheffield Wednesday, lowest goal scorers in the division. We've been through the goal scoring stats at home about how we've not scored more than once in a game since the Sheffield Wednesday game at home. Off the top of my head, I think we've maybe only scored more than once in a game twice, Sheffield Wednesday and Blackburn at home. Obviously, that's not good enough. That's something that we'll have to improve as the season goes on. And for all the frustrations with refereeing decisions yesterday, that's a list of chances there that again we've not taken, and that has to improve next season if we don't want to be in this sort of weird conversation that we've been in this year where we're looking over our shoulders, although we've got enough to, I think, to say we're not really in the relegation battle, but we don't want it to even be a debate next season. We want to be comfortably mid-table or better, so we need to score more goals.
Yeah, 100% we do, and we spoke about it on Thursday's show that Nathan created this side based on defensive solidity, and he's done that element of it very, very well. But the attacking side, I don't feel he's got quite right yet, and there's a number of factors for that. One of which that he needs to look at himself for is not picking Charlie Kelman when we've said he's probably our most natural goal scorer, and picking TC up front again. And I'm sure we're going to have the TC debate again. So Nathan's got some accountability. The strikers themselves have to as well. We said on Thursday, Dykes has never been a natural goal scorer for a striker. He does a lot up there, and I'm not here to criticise the work rate and the effort and what he's done for us, because he's been brilliant since he's come in. But he's not someone that's going to score 10 to 15 goals a season. Miles has never done that at this level. Godden has, but has been injured. So as comfortable and as happy as we were with the strikers we had at the start of the season, they were all a bit of a risk. And there was nobody guaranteed. There was nobody proven in that side that was going to be the one to do it. And the goals have had to be shared. So the strikers take some responsibility. It goes back to the debate we had since game 4 or 5 about the creating the chances as well. Because as you say, we did create 3 or 4 yesterday, but it wasn't like they were clear cut. They were okay opportunities, and obviously you'd like to think you'd score one of them, but it wasn't somebody on the edge of the 6-yard box with only the keeper to beat or anything like that. You look at the one that the Norwich player had when he turned, was it Jones, inside out and then put it wide in the first half? Like, that's a chance I would say he should be scoring, really. I don't think there was any really we had where you should score, but there were ones where we could. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that forward area. And I don't think we're going to fix that this season at all. I think the big thing comes in the summer, both with recruitment and playing style, and that's the thing we've been talking about. Are we going to go into next season playing this same way? Because if so, we're going to need a more clinical striker to take chances. But if we're able to adapt our style and give the strikers we've got more clear-cut opportunities, I'd bank on people like Miles Leaburn and Charlie Kelman stepping up and taking those chances, because they can score goals. They're just not 15, 20 goal a season players yet. So I want to give them time, and I think Jones can figure it out. But you're right, we haven't got that right really this season. We haven't really found out how to do it. There's been little glimpses, hasn't there? But I wouldn't say there's any game where we've scored 1 and I've thought we should have scored 4 or 5. That just doesn't really happen. Ironically, maybe Leicester at home seemed like the one that I remember where we lost 1-0, where there was a lot of chances. But even then, it's sort of clutching at straws. So there's a lot of work to do. As I say, I think we're going to score enough goals to get us over the line this season, and that was the main objective. But work to be done for sure in the summer.
Yeah. The team news at the start of the game then, so it was only one change, which was Dykes obviously returning from illness and coming in for Leaburn, which meant that it's the biggest debate every game now. It got to a stage yesterday where it was a bit weird. I found it a bit ridiculous inside the stadium, to be honest. But obviously the Tyrese Campbell debate. Now let's preface this with the fact that I said on Thursday I would have taken him out the side. I think he's not been bang at it recently, and I feel like he could have done with a break, and I would have started Kelman. And sure enough, in a half where everyone was quiet going forward yesterday, he was pretty quiet in the first half. He had one of our chances, which was where he cut in from the left, and then had a shot that deflected wide. But I mean, he obviously looked better when he went to left wing back, which is ironic because the amount of times Nathan has said this season we've had to play him out of position at left wing back, and then actually went out wide. He had a good run into the box where he teed up Doherty, took the touch, and shot was blocked. He had that excellent cross towards the far side. Like, he had a couple of moments, his couple of best moments, but I mean, Sai says, whatever the opinions of TC, the level of abuse aimed at him was shocking. Quite a toxic atmosphere in part of the covered end, which was disappointing given our recent run. It was odd yesterday. Like, you can sit here and be frustrated and think he shouldn't start the game, but I've never understood the amount of vitriol we give to some of our own players sometimes, especially the one that, from watching Charlton over the years, I've never known any player be quite clearly so affected by his confidence as anyone. Like, he's the most confident player I've ever seen. Like, you can see when his head goes down. So I don't really understand what people were thinking yesterday. I mean, there was a fella behind me who was so quick to blame Tyrese for everything that when he did something bad, Tyrese was getting it. When someone else did something bad, Tyrese was getting it for not shouting at him and telling him where to play the ball. It was insane. Like, some of the stuff yesterday has got way too over the top, and it was quite clear that when actually Tyrese went out wide to a position where he's probably in the wide element of the pitch, not necessarily as left wing back, but in the wide part of the pitch, he's much more likely to be effective. He actually became, which we all know he is, our only player who can operate on the wing. So, I mean, I don't understand absolutely hammering one of our own players when he is still, because we're not that side yet, he's still one of our only players who can actually do stuff sometimes out wide. And I found it way too much yesterday, Paul, way too much. It's not like, we're supporters, yeah, we're not critics, yeah, whatever you want to call it, but our title is supporter. Let's go and support our bloody team.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's ridiculous, and I think people need to step back a bit. If I'm being honest, I'm sorry, I'm sounding now critical from the subset of our fans who were giving him so many pelters throughout the game, but we need to understand where we've come from and where that player has been plying his trade over recent seasons. He's come in from the academy and he's been playing at a lower level than what we're playing at the moment. He's been asked to step back in what has been, I think, two pretty unfamiliar positions for him. Nathan decided to go with him as the kind of the second forward, but a wider forward last season, and he did really well, and he started to get the knack of cutting in and getting some goals, and so we were all loving that, and everybody's happy to sing his name at that point. And then we step up to the Championship, and we shouldn't forget when we talk about, I mean, our defending's been outstanding, but so the defenders we're coming up against are that much better. They're really high-priced defenders, and so TC, of course, isn't going to get as much change out of those players. And when he's playing a bit more centrally, which is what he does when he's pushed right up top, I think he finds it difficult for two reasons. One, because he's more inclined, he wants to pull out wide, but if he's having to forward press, he's closing in spaces, which is just not his kind of comfort zone still. And secondly, when you're pushing that high, you haven't got the opportunity to really sprint past your man and get to that byline to create the chances. You only get that when either you're on the wing holding wide and you're kind of middle of the pitch and you get your legs moving, or you play at that wing back. Hence why when he went to that position after Chambers came off, we had a couple of occasions where, guess what? He flew past the Norwich defender and three had to close him down to get the ball off him because he is a real threat. And so I think people just need to understand the player, his body language, which sometimes I don't think particularly helps him. He's a very relaxed, introvert type individual, and I think people read too much with, if you're on a player's back, you suddenly see the negativity in everything, really, than remember what his personality and character's been throughout his career at Charlton so far. So I think everybody needs to give him a break. I think people need to understand that he is a real threat that is stepping up into this level. The more games he plays, the better he will become, I'm sure. He's not going to have good games every game. And if we think about yesteryear, I think wingers in general blow hot and cold up and down every division in this land and every other football playing land around the world. It's just the nature of it. You sometimes get absolute exceptional characters like the Ronaldos, Messi's, Salah in the Premier League, but they're so few and far between. It is a hot and cold area of the pitch, that those type players. And guess what? TC has had a lot of weight put on his shoulders by playing a lot of games this season, and sometimes it's not going to go as well for him as possible. But I still think he is a danger, and I think the fans need to understand that he's somebody we need to get behind and help him in his step up. Because if we don't, his confidence will drop, and it will drop to levels where, you know, he'll end up at another club or in a division below, and we don't want that for these type players. Let's get behind them. Let's really support our lads, and let's, again, bigger picture. We are 9 points ahead of the drop zone with 7 games to go. So if a player has 3-4 games that they're off it, who actually really cares right now? Let's give them the opportunity to really thrive, enjoy their football. And you know what? There might be a game where he gets a brace and then suddenly we're all singing this song again. Everybody forgets it. So I was really frustrated by it yesterday.
Yeah, I found it really annoying. Like, that's not, like, I'm not sitting here saying that he's ripping teams to shreds every week. And as I said at the top, I think he's had a bad few weeks, and I wouldn't have been surprised to see him come out. But as I mentioned, like, part of the problem with our squad at the moment, and Nathan said this explicitly yesterday, I don't think it's in the clip from my interview, I think it was in the wider press conference, but we don't have anyone else who does what he does. So part of the reason there's so much pressure on Tyrese Campbell is because he has to do this every game. He is the only one who's going to make something happen, unfortunately. And therefore, when it's not happening for him, which it definitely hasn't been over the last few weeks, then it's more noticeable. But yesterday, it was just ironic that after people... So I have my headphones on during games, so I don't always hear this. But apparently, when Chambers came off, there was booing that it wasn't Tyrese Campbell. And the irony being, from then on, when he went out to the wide area of the pitch, he showed that he is a much more attacking-minded player than someone like Chambers, who's obviously a more defensive player. And that's why, when we're not playing well, we need Tyrese Campbell sometimes to be on the pitch, to be the only person who is in our side who can actually do something like that. I mean, Sam's saying, sorry, but at the end of the day, he's a professional footballer. He'll need to learn this will happen. I would have taken him off after 20 minutes as he didn't look interested. I mean, obviously, professional footballers are going to hear groans and stuff in the crowd. That is to be expected. But I mean, I'm not mates with Tyrese Campbell. I don't know him personally. I've interviewed him a few times, obviously, which we've all enjoyed on the show. But I'm not convinced that trying to take him off after 20 minutes would have been the best way to manage a character like Tyrese Campbell. I mean, that would destroy him. I mean, that's just, you know, yeah, it's strange. Mickey says the attitude to Tyrese is poor. People are way too quick to jump on him. My problem with Tyrese is he's a winger, not a striker or a left wing back, especially in the Championship. So, yeah, I mean, it comes back to the squad. Is he being played in the right position? That's a debate that's been roaring on all season. But yeah, Dean says supporters are allowed to voice their opinion. We all pay our money. I've never said you're not allowed to. I always just think, like, if I'm sitting there and I want Charlton to score a goal, and therefore one of the more likely ways that's going to happen is by Tyrese Campbell beating someone and getting to the byline, is me yelling vitriol at him from 5 yards away. Is that going to help the occasion, or is it going to make things more difficult? I'd like... We speak about him every week, Sue. So he is the player most in focus. But I find elements of it yesterday like bizarre. Like, can a player not have a bad few weeks? Are we not allowed to have a bad few weeks now without being hounded out the club?
I actually, it really upsets me because, again, going back to that, yesterday was our academy day, and he came through our ranks, and I think a few people have made comment that he literally has 3 players on him every time he gets the ball because they know the danger that he can bring. I find it really sad, and I agree with everything you've all said so far in terms of the type of personality that TC is. I think that's, I'm sorry, Sam, that's nonsense saying bring him off after 20 minutes. Like, he showed in that part in the second half when he played out on the wing that he can create, and that showed Norwich had to change the way they were playing. They had 3 men on him every time he had the ball. You can't compare when you look at a team like Norwich that have been in the Prem probably pretty consistently for like the last 12 years. The difference in the quality that they've got in their squad as to what we've got. And again, it's not an excuse. but there is such a big gap between those top sort of 5-6 teams that are all been in the Premier League a lot more recently than we have, and where we're at. And I think when we think back to when we got promoted, everyone was buzzing. As long as we stay up, as long as we stay up. Now all of a sudden, like this negative vibe that's creeping in, like when we're playing. I mean, what was it, two weeks ago when we beat Middlesbrough? It's like everyone's like, the whole team amazing, the manager amazing. We lose against a team that's probably up there with Borough in terms of quality and class and ability. We only lost 1-0, and it's like we're the worst team in the world. I just don't get the mentality, and I'm sorry. I know people are gonna hate me for saying this, but exactly what you said, Louis. You're a supporter. Support it, especially your own, like your young boys that have come through and given everything to this club. Support them. Don't hate on them, because you're going to push them away and they're going to do wonders at another club.
I mean, it's funny. Spam said in the chat earlier, so I've lost it because a lot of comments coming in. But he said something about how, you know, he didn't like the abuse that Charlie Kirk was getting, and he deserved it. But that's the thing. Like, we've had the last 5 years, we've watched some utter dross at our club, who shouldn't have never have been playing for a club of our quality. Like, I still can't believe the Player of the Year vote from a few years ago where one of them came third. But like, with just players who haven't been good enough, and sometimes it's not a case of them not trying. In some cases, there's been plenty of players at our club over the last few weeks who over the last few seasons haven't been trying. And I could. I'm not going to go name names now, and it's not Terrell, who I mentioned there, who unfortunately just levels wasn't quite good enough. But like to give it to TC, who, I mean, the lazy thing is just something I've never understood. He's running stats, he's playing out of position. I've never, like, there's people who've deserved it a lot more than Tyrese Campbell, which is very, very odd. Like, we're actually at a bit of a good time for our club at the moment, so to feel that negative at games about stuff, I just can't get my head around. Like, I get my head around being frustrated that we don't create enough chances, we don't score enough goals. Like, there's things that have to improve if you want to stay in the Championship for the next 5 years, which we all want to. But I just feel like things got very odd yesterday, and it's all come to a head. And I still preface that with, as I said, I wouldn't have started him yesterday because he's had a bad few weeks. There we go. Right. Michael says the midfield three constantly bypass and do very little to drive the ball forward, playing aimless punts, and no one says a word. TC doesn't chase a lost cause, and then suddenly people go mad. You know, I mean, should we be absolutely laying into Dock and Coventry yesterday for not getting out to the strikers? Should we be booing them when they don't get subbed off for that? No, like, that's not how things should work. We can come on the show and say players should have done a bit better, and in the crowd you should have got out to him. But it's just absolutely pointless hammering our arguably most fragile individual on the pitch as well. But anyway, right, let's get into Nathan's interview. It was actually quite a standard one yesterday, but I don't know if you saw its reference right at the end, the little spat between him and Philippe Clement at the end of the game. So I did ask Nathan about that as well. Nathan, narrow defeat today. How did you see it?
We have to defend the goal better because it's a themed goal. We've conceded from the edge of the box, from trying to be too safe and dropping into the box too much. And we debrief, we tell them, we show them. We show Norwich tactical video and everything, so that's really disappointing. Then we have enough situations, I think, in around the final third to have created more than we did, and then we lacked quality. We lacked that bit of composure. You know, we hit the bar. We have so many situations, so many opportunities to cross, so many opportunities to punish, and we don't. But that's our learning curve, because again, we know we're at a real tough. So a tough league, so we have to get better, whether that's more work or different personnel or whatever it is. We have to get better. But then there's some unacceptable decisions in the game today that last week a poor refereeing decision, in my opinion, and video evidence is opinion, and the assessor's opinion cost us last week. And once again, I have no doubt in my mind that we'll get another apology for a baffling decision. And then there's one or two other decisions which I filmed and took in, but you can't show them, that are on another planet. Like some of the decisions they've given, I'm like, when they look at him, I say, what are you seeing there? Like, there's an offside he gives that I think he must have had the sun in his eyes or something, because he's given a decision a player and there's no one there. There's no one offside. It's like, what's he given? And I don't know. I honestly, and that has cost us today as well.
Well, the penalty shout on Lloyd Jones, I'm guessing, is the obvious one you're talking about. It looks like he had a grab on his arm there.
Anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul. It's a foul in the box. It's a foul all day long. VAR, it's a foul. But I think it's a foul because, you know, there's always a way to get out of it. But like last week, it was 3 times the amount of contact than it was last week in terms of Oxford's penalty. Yeah, Oxford get a penalty because of the flow of the game. But yeah, but there were some other decisions which were, off the charts.
You're quite frustrated at full time. If on another day one of those Carey chances go in, that header that comes off the crossbar goes in, and you get a well-deserved point today.
Yeah, but we have to show that quality. You know, it's a chance. If you have a chance from 2 or 3 yards, then you have to score. Sonny Carey, normally it's a target, and it usually takes. We were here at Wrexham and we lost the game 1-0 against Wrexham, but Sonny Carey produced one of those opportunities, and the keeper's pulled off a world-class save, and then today he just didn't quite catch it right. So yeah, but there's been enough in the game today. Like we limited them to counter-attacks. They were very good on the counter-attack, and they'd open and they play like that, and they have real quality. You know, they're some top players. We've tried to get some of their players, but have been nowhere near in terms of getting them because of we're fledgling to this league. But there's lots of things to say. We can defend it better, we can show more quality, and then someone can do their job, and then we're sitting here as a different interview.
Yeah, you look at a season championship side like Norwich, obviously the second half of this season
has
been incredible
for
them.
Well.
Yeah.
They've been Premier League and Championship. In the time we've been in League One and stuff, they've been Championship and Premier League.
Is that the way you sort of see Charlton developing over the next couple of years, if they can stay up then into play sort of in that sort of style and that with that quality on the ball as well?
Well, if we keep evolving, yeah, then that's what I want us to do. And our time frame, I think, is different. You know, I don't imagine. Well, if I do my job and if going to the time scales, then we're only talking about a few years for us to be, to be competing and playing. But we are competing with these. Like, we're only 4 or 5 points behind these, and yet on a different level resource-wise in terms of stuff. So we're not in the worst place. It's just with us demanding and with us wanting to push boundaries and overachieve pound for pound, if you like, then that's what I demand from them. But look, if we continue, if we develop in the next 2 years like we have in the previous 2 years, then we'll be in a different position, a totally different position.
Just ask about the situation at the end with Philippe Clement. You seemed upset with him as he came onto the pitch. I couldn't really see what happened there.
Look, don't make a big thing of it, but after the match, managers usually shake their hands. He shook 25 people's hand and then decided to come and shake the manager's hand. I think that's a lack of respect. I don't high-five the crowd and everyone else and go and shake tip men's hands and water bottle hands and everything else. I show respect to their manager, and then if I want to do anything, if I want to high-five anyone, I do that. So I think he showed a real lack of respect, and I told him that.
Have you spoken to him since? He did say in here he was going to come and speak to you again.
Let's see.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer, It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. On your Sunday morning, just before the break, that we heard from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. So not only was his team massively time wasting throughout the game, Philippe Clement then decided to start time wasting with the old handshakes at the end. But sorry, it's just got me there said, to be fair. With it being Norwich, there was a lot of extra hands and fingers to shake after the game. So my wife's from Norwich, so I'm allowed to laugh at that, I think. But Mickey said that Nathan was shaking the water bottles hands was a fantastic thing to say as well. Norm said it would have been funny if he'd said he was shaking the tea lady's hands. I mean, it was quite funny after the game there, Tom. I just saw the incident on the pitch. So basically, Nathan Jones was sort of storming onto the pitch. I thought going over to the referee, and then Philippe Clement was chasing him, which was quite a sight in the first place because he's like lurch. He's massive, isn't he? Big lad. Done a great job, obviously. But then he has shook Nathan's hand. Then he's put a really condescending arm around his neck, and Nathan's like, "Get off me! What are you doing?" But yeah, Nathan not too pleased with the lack of respect from the Norwich City manager at the end of the game there, who apparently went and shook everyone's hand in the away end before he had a chance to go and speak to Nathan.
Yeah, I think you lose or you win a game like that against Nathan Jones. I don't think you can do a lot right, probably, unless you go straight up to him after the game and shake his hand before doing anything else. So, yeah, there's a little bit of Nathan being Nathan there. I was the same as you, obviously, just watching it live. It was when the arm went round his shoulder. Because at first I thought, oh, yeah, they seem okay. And then the arm went round the shoulder and you could tell then Jones wasn't happy. But like he had plenty of reasons not to be happy. He's just lost the game. As you say, he was striding over to the referee, wasn't he? I thought he was going to get in trouble there. And I think he got to the referee and he was sort of holding his hands up and sort of apologetically before he'd even started shouting at the referee, just to sort of cover his back, I think, and avoid a booking, which made me laugh. Look, he's frustrated. Maybe he does. Maybe next time we play him, if we're in the same league as them next year at full time, Jones should go around the rest of the West Stand and just shake the front row's hand and then go over and do it. It would be quite funny. I don't think he's necessarily going to think like that at the time. But look, we know what Jones is like when we lose a game. He's obviously annoyed and he wears his heart on his sleeve, as we've said lots of times. But yeah, it was the arm around the shoulder, I think, that really got me, and probably was the bit that kicked it all off for him.
Yeah, it was. You got to make sure you show the right level of respect to Nathan Jones at full time. Otherwise, it will definitely be coming up in the post-match interview, as we've heard. Although I noticed a Norwich fan has sort of brought up the clip of Nathan's celebration when we beat Wickham in the semi-finals, when he's on the floor and stuff. But yeah, that was then. This is now. Let's worry about that. He obviously spoke a lot about the referees. It is frustrating when, like, you could have got something out of yesterday's game and the penalty. I mean, the weird phantom offside as well. I reckon I know what that was, because I remember there was one in the second half where the ball went forward and the flag went up on the far side. I remember thinking, I couldn't see who was offside there, but you just trust the linesman. But Nathan reckons there was no one anywhere near it. But yeah, he was frustrated. Liam says, I quite like the fact our manager is a sore loser. Some of our previous managers wouldn't have been able to have a handshake as their hands were sewn into their coat pockets. And we said it before, Paul, if Nathan Jones isn't being Nathan Jones, then something's wrong. Like if he's not having a go at Philippe Clement for high-fiving the crowd or something, or going out for dinner with the tea lady before shaking hands with Nathan Jones, then he wouldn't be being what he is, and what he is has got us to where we are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and thank God for that, or God willing, as he would say. I mean, that is him, and we really appreciate that. And he had every right to be frustrated yesterday. I mean, as I said earlier, he can't have a go at the referee. I thought Will Finney was utterly incompetent yesterday. For me, it was a stonewall penalty. And if we had VAR, it would have been proven to be a penalty. It's not strictly come dancing with a wonky spin. This is football. And his arm was pulled and he was span and he fell to Dex. That was a pen. But I had problems with the amount of time wasting that was permitted throughout the game. If he'd whipped out his yellow card sooner and stamped on that we wouldn't have seen so much of that. Equally, with so much time wasting going on with a number of subs, obviously the physios came on a couple of times as well. How we ended up with 5 minutes at the end, I have absolutely no idea. I would have banked on 9 to 10 minutes of stoppage time, but it was half of that. And guess what? We were really on the kind of, we might have been missing, but we were more on the front foot in that very, very final phase. So a few more minutes may have helped. And in general, I just think you would expect at this standard of football with so much at stake, the referees and officials in general to be better. And unfortunately, a bit similar to the League One officials, it's few and far between. I mean, it's just a really, really poor performance. And I know it goes both ways, but that Norwich team, for all their quality, were exploiting every bit of dark arts, etc. And the referee didn't deal with it, and it doesn't help us. So I think he had every right to hold his hands up and then provide an absolute verbal volley. And the crowd booing the officials at the end kind of was well deserved. If anybody be booed, it was Will Finney and his team yesterday. I thought it was absolutely bloody appalling.
Yeah, no, 5 minutes was like ridiculous. Quite a few people bringing it up. All hell let loose, and if we're winning, it would have been 12 minutes of added time. That's just the way things go, and it's just strange, isn't it? Right, let's have a look at some of the emails. I mean, Mark saying is playing Campbell just wrecking his reputation at the moment, clearly out of form. Like I said, probably wouldn't have started. The irony being, at the point where people wanted him to come off yesterday was when he was at his best, when he started putting in crosses. Jimmy said, another game, another Tyrese debate. As much as we all want him to do well, his meaningful stats, i.e. goals and assists, are still very poor. If we compare him to the only other player in the team you could really compare him to, which I believe is Sonny Carey, someone who drives us up the pitch, creates chances and excites, TC is well below par. Sonny doesn't get anywhere near as much debate, ridicule when he's been ineffective because at least he has some decent goals and assist numbers behind him. TC doesn't. This is why I feel TC gets more criticism than most. Yeah, and I mean, we've reiterated all season we all want those numbers to be higher, and I suspect Nathan's telling TC that as well. He needs to take more chances. He needs to get more assists and that sort of thing. He could have had 2 assists yesterday if Harry Clark headed the ball in from 3 yards out, or if Doc slightly heavy touch for his chance. They're sort of fine margins as well yesterday, aren't they? McSquared said it's Groundhog Day for us yesterday. We generally defended and battled well. Had some chances, conceded just once, but came up short in the attacking third. Norwich were impressive and look far more dangerous than us going forward. It's always going to be tough against the side in great recent form. None of our players had a poor game, but no one had a great game either. Ultimately, no harm done, though, as West Brom were the only side to win below us. Yeah, I'm really not concerned about, we will get the amount of points needed. Bristol City, he's talking about Bristol City coming up next, which is quite interesting as well. Yeah, they're in a funny run of form for that Good Friday game. He says we have made significant progress since our mauling at the Den, and that's more than enough in itself. Losing at home to Norwich is disappointing, but nothing more than that. We're still in a great position. Chrissy says, I'm sick and tired of watching these refs and the other 2 idiots. I think every fan from every club should write to the EFL complaining about these bad decisions. It's just not good enough getting a sorry from them after the game. They forget that we pay our wages. Mick's talking about the refereeing as well. Says the on-pitch officiating is so poor in the lower leagues. Maybe VAR could be the solution to achieve correct decisions. I mean, I don't get to watch as much Premier League football as I used to, Sue, but every now and then you have an absolute howl of VAR as well, and it does seem to ruin the flow of a lot of games. But I suspect if we were having this debate after the playoff final in 2019, we'd be like going, of course we don't want VAR because our winning goal would have been disallowed. But because we're having it off the back of a game where we should have had a penalty, now we're thinking maybe we should have it. I mean, would you ever bring it into this? I mean, Paul's saying I watch the Prem and I don't want VAR, and then I watch the EFL refs and I want it. Like it's a sort of double-edged coin, this one. I don't want to ruin all the games, but at the same time, I'm pretty annoyed that we didn't get a penalty yesterday.
I think I hate VAR for the fact that it appears to take such a long time for anyone to make a decision at certain points. But I think if you look at it on the whole, there's more positives to negatives for having it. Obviously, there are incidents where it gets talked about massively, where it's taken someone 10 minutes to make a decision or whatever, but that's probably in the minority. On the whole, if you think about all the Prem games that use it every single weekend, it is not very often that there's a massive error when it comes to VAR. I feel like if it's brought into the Championship and even League 1 and 2, it should be at the bare minimum in terms of like, so when VAR first came into the Prem, it was like obvious goal scoring opportunity, and if it was a goal. I feel like if you just minimised it to those decisions, then that would be helpful. But I think it does ruin the flow of the game. And I guess it's a difficult one, isn't it? But I would feel like it would be good to have it, as long as we didn't have this nonsense of going over to Stockley Park and waiting for 10 minutes to then say the referee needs to watch it again.
Yeah, if you think, I mean, Liam's point. I mean, even logistically, like facilitated it in the Football League. Like, there's just you'd have to build an entire massive building and house all these people. Like, as Dean said, it ruins it ruins football. The part and parcel of it is having these discussions after a game. That's why we love it. And I just think, if you think about how badly it's implemented in the Premier League with our so-called top quality officials. You imagine when you get down to the sort of lower level ones trying to work out, they probably can't even work out how to right click a mouse, that sort of thing. And then I just think it's asking for trouble. It's not going to happen, I suspect. So yeah, as much as I'm annoyed about yesterday's penalty, I think it would be a bad thing to come into the Championship and League One. I mean, what level do you go down to? You know, do you get down at National League South level? Obviously, there's going to have to be a limit somewhere, and currently it seems to be the Premier League. And that's where we are. Right, Richard says we can talk about the ref and the time wasting, but the bottom line is we've got absolutely nothing going forward apart from Wednesday. We have scored the fewest goals in the league, and that is our problem. Yep, and that's right. As we mentioned earlier, we have to score more goals going forward, and that's one thing. Right, we're going to hear from Will Manion. Siv actually emailed. This is an interesting point, not really something I've massively considered, but he said the sun was in Mannion's eyes for the goal. This is something I frequently thought and occasionally posted. Around the two equinoxes, first time we've used that word on the show, we should be kicking to the covered end first half when sunny. Seriously, it's a thing. Look at him shading his eyes in the build-up and look at the length and direction of shadows on all players. He reacts late as the sun messed him up we're due to looking right at when the player shoots. We need to be smarter about the choice of which way to kick and not always go for the covered end in the second half. And he'd like me to ask Will about the sun, which unfortunately I hadn't read that email before speaking to Will yesterday, so I didn't get to ask him about the sun. But I did ask him about a few things yesterday. So it's what Will Manion said after yesterday's defeat.
Will, narrow defeat in the end against Norwich. How did you see the game today?
Yeah, disappointing. I thought we had some good chances to get something out of the game, and their keepers made a good save, and they've been defending for their lives. So yeah, obviously disappointing not to come away with at least a point. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you feel Charlton pushing in that second half, and when the ball's sitting up for Sonny Carey right at the end, do you think you might just get your just desserts at the end there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just that final thing of putting the ball back in the net. Really, I thought we defended really well for most of the game, and it's just that final bit.
Yeah, obviously an early goal to concede, and it sort of puts you on the back foot. I mean, as a goalkeeper, are you sort of disappointed when you see a free shot from the edge of the box like that?
Yes, it's not a great goal. Obviously, it's a disappointing way to concede. But yeah, I mean, it obviously puts us on the back foot from early on, and we're chasing the game now for 70 odd minutes. So it's like I said, it's just a disappointing result today.
Yeah, from your personal point of view, I mean, you kept Charlton in the game with that double save and a couple of other moments in that second half. You know, when Charlton were pushing, they still had that threat, didn't they, Norwich?
Yeah, I mean, they were good on the counter, Norwich. I thought that was probably the only way they were going to score in the second half. So yeah, I've had to sort of keep alert for a couple of situations, but when we're chasing the game, we're leaving bodies up and we're susceptible to that counter.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first defeat in 4. I mean, it's obviously last week was such a good week. It's a shame it's ended with this today. But in terms of the form at the moment, you must be pretty happy with how things have been going recently.
Yeah, I mean, the level of performance has been good the last 2 weeks. So we're all still positive, and we're trying to sort of carry that on till the end of the season, really.
And obviously, from a personal point of view, you've come into the side now with when Thomas Kaminski was injured, and you kept your place. Is exactly what you want to do as the goalkeeper who'd been starting on the bench so far.
Yeah, I mean that's the position. You know, you've got to be ready for your chance. It changes quickly in football, and you just got to make sure that when you're called upon that you're there and you're sharp and you're ready.
We saw this sort of a lot last season with you and Ashley. Like when you got in the side, both goalkeepers sort of kept their places. Nathan obviously puts his faith in the goalkeeper in between the sticks if they do their job.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I think that's quite similar at most clubs. But yeah, last season was we sort of swapped because of injury, and we both did well in our stints, so we kept our places.
Yeah, what's it been like sort of watching on from the sidelines at the start of the season after you did so well in last season?
Yeah, it's been difficult, but like I said, it's football and it's the nature of the position that we're in. But like I said, everything changes so quickly, and you can't sort of throw your toys out the pram and be too disappointed because you could be in the next day. So it's just about staying ready, really. Yeah.
When you have someone like Thomas Kaminski coming into the club as well, someone who's played so many games in the top 2 divisions, what can you learn from him in training during the week?
Yeah, his experience is really good. You know, Premier League experience, and he's a top lad as well. We have a really good relationship on the training ground as well. So yeah, I really enjoy working with him and taking little bits from his game and incorporating into mine.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I was going to ask you what your personal ambition is for the rest of the season. I guess it's to keep the shirt now for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, and keep the level of performance that we have been showing the last couple of weeks. You know, we've got a job to do, and we know what it is, and we're in a good position. So I think it's just keeping that up now for the rest of the games.
Yeah, are they sort of looking up more than down now? Over the last couple of weeks, they've got themselves a really nice gap away from the relegation zone. You're thinking about just trying to finish as high as possible at this stage, or is it still about staying up?
Yeah, we're just focusing on ourselves, really. We're just seeing what we can do now till May, and yeah, we're not too worried about other people and relying on other results.
There you go. That's Big Willie. A little bit sniffy after the game yesterday. There's currently a debate going on in the in the comments about whether he might have hay fever. Andrew saying we've already got one sniffer dog. We don't need a. Liam says he's taking a shot every time he sniffs, and he's absolutely hammered already. Like, he just had the sniffles yesterday. Let's not get too concerned about that. What have you made of him overall, Tom? Obviously he's kept the shirt since Kaminski went out injured, and now Tom's back on the bench. He still kept the shirt.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's a good player. He obviously, as you referenced in the interview, had that back and forth with Ash last year and similar this year, although less opportunity this year. I think the things, I think you discussed it last week about him commanding his box. He does that better than Kaminski, and his decision making generally is better. So a couple of times yesterday where the ball goes forward and Mannion's already there to head or clear that ball, whereas Kaminski isn't. He'll come forward and back 3 or 4 times.
Liam said if Kaminski conceded that goal, there'd be plenty of people who should have saying he should have saved it. He got a firm hand.
I feel like if people were saying that about Kaminski, then they're wrong. I agree about the sun being in their eyes, by the way. I don't know. I hadn't thought of it until the game kicked off, and I obviously prefer us shooting in the covered end second half, but by then the sun had gone in. But it was the way the sun was for that goal. It was right across from where the shot came in, but you know, I'm not going to give him that excuse too easily. I think Kaminski probably is pound for pound, maybe a slightly better shot stopper. Although Mannion's double save in the second half was fantastic down the other end. So yeah, look, I like him. I think there's good competition there. I think they've both got things to work on. Neither of them are the complete keeper, but I've got full confidence in either of them really when they're in. Yeah,
Big Dom saying wear a cap. I mean, that would certainly end the equinoxes debate, wouldn't it? If he had a hat on or maybe some sunglasses. But there we go. Right, we're going into the international break now, actually. So no show next week. We'll have a week off, but then we'll probably come back. So the next game is a Good Friday game against Bristol City at the Valley. So we'll probably come back on the Wednesday for a preview of that game, and then I'll work out what we're doing over Easter. I haven't decided yet, but we'll come up with something. But for now, thanks to everyone who's joined us in the chat for today's show. We'll caught up on the podcast or on YouTube afterwards. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. Click subscribe so you never miss another show, and on all the podcast apps as well, so you can listen to it whilst you're out and about. Check out our merch store as well, charltonlive.etsy.com, if you want a Charlton Live mug, the perfect Easter gift. Not traditional, I'd suggest. I think Easter like chocolate eggs normally, but I'd say let's change that this year and make Charlton Live mugs the perfect Easter gift, and you can put an egg in it, as Sue says. So right, massive thanks to all of you who've joined us. Tom, Paul, and Sue, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers all.
Oh, Paul, for God's sake. Save that for after the show. Right, we'll leave it there. I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. We will see you on Wednesday week.